Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you with Savage Wolverine, issue 2. And I had to read something to get the taste of X Factor 9 out of my mouth. And even though this issue does have some, interesting dialogue choices, overall, this was an excellent comic book. I really did enjoy reading the series when it initially came back out way back in the day, which wasn't too long ago, but thinking back on it now, I'm like, yeah, it's been a few years now. Anyway, this is Savage Wolverine Part 2. As I said, this is Frank Cho, writer and artist. Jason Keith colors, VC's Cory Petit lettering. Here's everyone else working on the book. And what happens is this takes place in the Savage Land. Sheena, the she-devil, Shauna, was trying to help some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. They didn't survive. And so there's this whole thing about what's going on in the Savage Land. And what I like is how, in the book, the first issue, they just kind of throw Wolverine in there and don't really give any answers. And the same thing kind of happens with this individual, where at first I didn't know who this was, because he actually talked a little more mature. He was saying, Calvin, are you online? And come to find out, this is Amadeus Cho. And I like that here he actually feels like a character. Yeah, he has some bad jokes. A lot of modern comic books, you can't really avoid them. I'm sorry. There's just the nature of the beast, it seems, anymore. Anyway, the reason I say that is because this Amadeus Cho I can read. Not the totally awesome Hulk who can do everything. No, we're not going to talk about totally awesome Hulk. But at least here, Amadeus Cho, he's kind of got thrown into Savage Land as well. And I like that even though, as I just said, bad jokes, he's still a relatively fleshed out character. And then another thing about this book that kind of makes me laugh is, Wolverine's the best at what he does. But I don't want to say that they're really picking on Logan, but it's really shown that he's having a hard time because, he hasn't been out in the wild as much, or at least the Savage Lands, because this is a whole nother horse of a different color out there. And, oh, poor guy. Poor Logan. He really gets thrown through the grinder in this issue. And, that kind of morbidness, you enjoy it just to see how Logan can survive because that's the type of character he is. Now, with that said, one thing about these, like Marvel and DC, is there's no more comic code authority. It hasn't been for a few years. So I hate that when they want to cuss, we still get this. It's like either nut up or shut up. Image doesn't give a damn. They go for it. DC Black Label will go for it. But this, I get why they used to have to do it. But if you think about it, comics aren't really for kids like they used to be. At least a lot of the more main titles compared, like this would be more for a collector, and then this would be more like this book would be for their little one. So, I don't know. Commit to the bit or not. And just that's my only little perturb there. And I think what really gets me in this book is how Frank Cho, that one thing about him is how he's able to focus on anatomy and really make it pop. Like, I've met him at a convention, really nice guy. And just the process of how he draws, it will blow you away. I had to buy one of his art book. He got some beautiful pieces like the inked covers of, The Death of Ultimate Spider-Man. Gorgeous, the intricacies and stuff like that. And that's why whenever he did the covers for Punchline and Harley Quinn, I had to grab some of those because just the anatomy is so clean. And then when he goes back over his work, it's always so clean and it looks realistic and it doesn't look like 3D models. It looks like a human. And going back, artwork aside, I just love how Wolverine's getting his butt kicked by these pterodactyls, and then all of a sudden, Shauna comes in with a freaking machine gun, and Logan's like, "Why didn't you tell me we had a gun? I have a gun." And he's like, "Do you have any more guns? We're out of ammo." So it's just sort of like, "Oh, hey, we have a way to protect ourselves." Well, that was the last of it. Shit. And again, and then some of the jokes, like, so for example, Wolverine's irritated at Shauna. And he's like, "Let's rest here. You need to shut up. Let's rest." And she's like, "Well, I haven't had anybody to talk to in almost 8 months because all the S.H.I.E.L.D. people died." And then you see him going down to drink water, and she's like, you shouldn't drink where you wash. You might get dysentery. And he's like, on second thought, let's just keep moving. And then, of course, the bad jokes where she's like, oh, hey, I thought you'd be bigger. You know, kind of like that Hugh Jackman fella. Meta moments like that. But again, like I was talking about in that mini X Factor review, is sometimes jokes can be bad in a book, but overall I can overlook them if the plot keeps me engaged. And that's what happens here is there's a lot of action. There's a few moments like, okay, for example, this was kind of funny. Wolverine's like, can you stop talking? Trying to focus. He's like, and of course there's this machine that's looming over the Savage Land that's kind of causing a lot of hindrances, and that's kind of the whole overarching point of this book. He's like, are you okay? You have a funny look on your face. Do you have to use the bathroom? I told you shouldn't drink dirty water. So let that part go. But then he's like, does silence offend you, woman? I need to focus. I mean it. No more distractions. Well, this is awkward. Moments like that, that's funny. Because that's kind of like the comic relief, kind of breaks the tension. So that was funny. And then Shauna kind of gets some upcomings, and of course they butt heads again because Wolverine's like, you used me as a fucking bait. And yeah, because at first she's like, hold very still. And then over her shoulder you see Shauna running. Because again, think about it, Wolverine's, even though he's a survivor, he can go out to any wilderness and usually find a way to nestle in. But Shauna, she lives here like Khazar does. And so she knows what to do. And Logan, you know, still kind of going by the, what do you call it? The seat of his pants, so to speak. And so anyway, we get some moments again with Amadeus Cho. It's one of those mornings, not enough coffee. But anyway, it just, I don't know. Overall, this book, it was really entertaining. The action was great. Artwork, absolutely phenomenal. Some bad jokes here and there. But each character, for the most part, and what was missing in that X Factor book, is everybody feels like a person, like a legitimate person. They don't just feel like a comic strip cartoon that you would read like on Tumblr or something. And that's, I think a lot of modern writers are forgetting is when you're writing, your characters need to be full-fleshed. They don't need to just be comic strips that are like for like web comics per se. Because with web comics, unless it's a really good one, a lot of the times the characters always fell short. And that's why I think a lot of web comics do not survive to this day. But Frank Cho, he's been in the industry for a while. He understands these characters. And like I said, some bad jokes aside, overall, Savage Wolverine was a really excellent read. And I highly recommend it. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if they have the whole run. I think you'll have a good time reading it. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little adamantium bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.